Hello and welcome to the video tourist. Right now, Mother Nature is dumping what is believed to be the heaviest snowfall in New York City in decades. Tomorrow, if it's safe to do so, I plan on bringing you through the winter wonderland that is New York City after a snowstorm. This is the video tourist. In this series, I'm going to be cycling around some of New York City's more amazing neighborhoods and pointing out to you nearly everything they have to offer. In this winter special, I'll be showing you a historic park, the world's most luxurious shopping street, a globally renowned theatre district, and finishing in the world's most visited tourist site. So stay right there and let's see what's coming up on today's episode. Okay, so welcome to a very frozen pond in the southeast corner of a very snowy Central Park. This is the pond, located just inside the 5th Avenue entrance of the most famous park in the world. If you're in New York City after a significant snowfall, the most visited park in the United States is a must for the cinematic images you'll get to record, and for the lovely ducks to feed. Today, New York City is in the aftermath of a major snowstorm, which dropped 19.7 inches of snow on the city overnight last Sunday, leaving Central Park looking like it does in Hollywood winter movies. One of those movies is the 1992 family holiday classic Home Alone 2. And the pathway that we are on now is where Kevin McAllister meets Brenda Fricker's Pigeon Lady for the first time. Across the pond we see the rustic Gapstow Bridge. Also featured in Home Alone 2, it was built in 1876 using Manhattan schist stone and is one of the most iconic and photographed landmarks in the whole park, mainly because of its stunning views of the high-rise skyline that is Central Park South. The bridge is popular mainly in the summer for engagement and wedding photographs because of its romantic setting. Walk a little further north and you can go skating at the Woolman Ice Rink. Now, this was the first purposely designed public park in the United States. All 843 acres, completed between 1858 and 1876, were designed from scratch by landscape architects, from the wooded areas like the ones on our right to the lakes, open meadows and these winding parks. This is an ice rescue ladder. The message is simple: keep off the ice. I'd love to show you more of the park, but this is a series about me cycling through city streets, and cycling isn't allowed in this area. So I'm going to make my way up and out of the park and get my bike on to the world famous 5th Avenue to start our winter wonderland look at this very popular part of Manhattan. Continuing on, whenever I show you something of interest, the graphics in the upper left will give you its name, what it is, the year it was completed, in what style and by whose design. If it's a New York City, New York State or National Historic Landmark, the name will be in green. Now, I understand many of my viewers are watching from abroad and maybe learning English, so in this series I will be speaking as slowly, clearly and as grammatically correct as I possibly can. If you wish, enable the subtitles for this video, because they are perfectly aligned with what I will be saying. Up ahead I see some horse-drawn carriages. These have been synonymous with Central Park since it opened. But first I'm going to show you a short video depicting the route I'm going to take you on today. Flying in from outer space, we start at the pond in Central Park. From here we cycle down 5th Avenue past the likes of the Plaza Hotel and chic designer stores to St. Patrick's Cathedral. Turning right, we head down to the ice rink beside 30 Rock and through the Rockefeller Center complex to Radio City Music Hall, before continuing over to Broadway and the heart of New York City's theatre district to the Broadway show Wicked at the Gershwin Theatre. And then down to Times Square, where we will finish up on the famous 42nd Street. This is one of several locations around the park where you can rent a horse-drawn carriage for a leisurely ride in the park or through the streets. Let me just get through here first. How are you, horse? Right, moving on. Coming up on the right, we see the famous Plaza Hotel through the trees. But first I want to bring you through the Friedman Plaza. This public art space is named after the founder of the Public Art Fund, who championed making art available to everyone. Reimagining the ancient Egyptian deity Khepri, the scarred beetle-faced god of the rising sun, is the Kuwaiti artist Munira Al-Qadiri, with her sculpture, the 17-foot-tall first sun. Across Fifth Avenue on 60th Street, we have the New York City landmark Metropolitan Club. Completed in 1894 in an Italian Renaissance revival style, the Metropolitan is a private social club that was founded by a group of wealthy New Yorkers, including the famed financier J.P. Morgan. On the left, we find a couple of kiosks for Strand Books. Celebrating their 100th year, this is one of New York City's beloved and iconic family-owned institutions. Since 1927, 18 miles of books has been the slogan for their original 4-story bookstore, still operating downtown near Union Square. And next we have our first subway alert. If you want to get to this location, take an RN or W train to the 5th Avenue station. Across the street, we see the 5th Avenue entrance to the historic The Pierre. This old world luxurious hotel was completed in 1930 in a French neoclassical and neo-Georgian style. It is known for world-class dining and afternoon tea or cocktails in its elegant restaurant, the Rotunda. We have arrived at one of New York City's most famous streets. This is Fifth Avenue, which has been synonymous with New York City's style, culture and wealth for over 200 years, containing museums, high-end luxurious residences and retail during most of that time. Let's get back cycling. Because of the snow, it will be tough walking through the Grand Army Plaza to show you that statue of Union General William T. Sherman. So I am staying on the road. Now I want to take a moment to explain the rest of the graphics at the top of your screen. As I'm cycling, the white name in the middle is the street that I'm on, the red name on the left is the street that's behind me, and the green name on the right is the street I'm approaching. Coming up, we see a gift from the German city of Hamburg. Representing friendship and goodwill, this 1,300-pound lamp is a decorative cast iron replica of the historic streetlights that adorn Hamburg's Lombard Bridge. Okay, let me just safely cross the street here before I show you our next luxury hotel, and I don't mean the plaza. Going to get in here to the left, where we have another quick look at the 24-karat gold coated statue of General Sherman. But over in the corner of Fifth Avenue, we see the Sherry Netherland Hotel. Completed in 1927 in a Romanesque revival and Gothic revival styles, it has 50 luxurious guest rooms and suites and the upscale Harry Cipriani restaurant. Up next, across Central Park South on the corner, we find one of the most iconic luxury hotels in the city. In New York City and National Historic Landmark, this is the renowned Plaza Hotel, built in 1907 in a French Renaissance-inspired chateau style. Now, back at the end of the 19th century, during the famed Gilded Age, this stretch of Fifth Avenue was known as Millionaire's Mile, because this is where many of New York City's wealthy families built their high-end luxurious mansions. Gradually, by the 1920s, most of the mansions have been sold, demolished and replaced by many of the buildings that we will see today. If we were to cycle down one block to the next corner, we would get to another luxury hotel. Built in the 1930s in an Art Deco style, since 2002 it has been the Ritz-Carlton, New York Central Park. Crossing over, the plaza is also famous for being a major film location for the popular comedy Home Alone 2. Inside those doors we will find the Champagne Bar and the celebrated Palm Court restaurant, which opened in 1907. Moving on, we come to the elegant Paris Theatre. Built in 1948 in an Art Modern style, this is New York City's longest running art house cinema and is its largest with 535 seats. It is Manhattan's only remaining single screen cinema, and since 2019 it has been operated by Netflix, so it now hosts Netflix premieres and year-round screenings. On our right we see the bronze sculpture Moonbird, created by the Barcelona artist Johan Miró in 1948. Next door is the Bergdorf Goodman building. Completed in 1927 in a French classic style to be the location of the famed luxury department store. I'll show you more in a few minutes. It is unfortunate that the beautiful plaza around the Pulitzer Fountain is under renovation. Hopefully it is back open for the summer. Bergdorf Goodman's men's store is across the avenue and contains the swanky Goodman bar located on the second floor. Unfortunately, scaffolding is covering up the iconic 32-foot glass cube entrance to Apple 5th Avenue, the underground flagship store for the famous electronics brand. Before Bergdorf Goodman building was erected, this was where the massive Cornelius Vanderbilt II's 120-room mansion stood, he being named after his famous grandfather, the railroad tycoon Cornelius Vanderbilt, who some believe was the richest man who ever lived. The current building has an Italian cafe called Giaroni, and its Bergdorf Goodman restaurant is on the 7th floor with impressive views of Central Park. Right, staying clear of this massive mound of snow, I've got the lights, so I'm heading across 57th Street to the far corner to show you a cross street of some significance. First up, Louie Vuitton's flagship store is undergoing renovations at the moment. So in true French artistic style, instead of viewing an eyesore of scaffolding, Louie Vuitton has wrapped the building completely in a temporary facade resembling a stacked pile of 6 of his iconic vintage-style luggage trunks, with the classic Louie Vuitton pattern, metallic buckles and brass corners to boot. Next we have Tiffany's. Known as the Landmark, this has been the flagship store of the famed jewelers since it was built for Tiffany's in 1940 in a conservative modern style. Off in the distance we see the 1400-foot Steinway Tower. Completed in 2022 in a neo-Art Deco style, this is the world's thinnest skyscraper and one of its tallest residential buildings. It is one of several ultra-luxury residential buildings that give 57th Street its nickname, Billionaires Row. Next we have one of the most recognizable buildings on 5th Avenue. Let me just get down to this snow mound here first for a better look at this. Trump Tower was completed in 1983 in a modernist style. One of now US President Donald Trump's earliest projects, this building put him on the map as a New York City real estate power broker. It is open to the public from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. Behind the entrance over there is a dramatic 5-story atrium lobby, a concourse full of shops, and the 45 wine and whiskey bar, which closes at 8 p.m. Moving on to the next block. Built in 1875 in a Gothic revival style, the 5th Avenue Presbyterian Church contains one of the largest Presbyterian congregations in the country and is often called the Cathedral of Presbyterianism. An outspoken supporter of civil rights and homelessness outreach, the church successfully sued the city in 2001 for the right to shelter homeless individuals on its front steps. Next we have 2 famous 5th Avenue luxury hotels. On the left we find the renowned St. Regis Hotel, another New York City landmark. The St. Regis was completed in 1904 in a Beaux-Arts style for the mega wealthy John J. Astor IV and is an old world luxury hotel. Its famous King Cole bar's signature drink is the Red Snapper. First created here in 1934, this vodka and tomato juice cocktail is better known across the world today as the Bloody Mary. The bar contains a mural by Maxfield Parrish that is considered one of the greatest public murals in New York City. This 30-foot oil painting features the iconic sour-faced king surrounded by amused courtiers. The masterpiece has become a symbol of New York City's Gilded Age. In New York City landmark, the Peninsula is a 23-story old-school hotel of refined luxury. Think marble, chandeliers and impeccable service. It contains the upscale Clement restaurant and a rooftop tourist bar called Pintop with great views of the city. It was built in 1905 in an Italian Renaissance style in a nod to its older neighbour next door, the University Club. In New York City, a National Historic Landmark, the University Club of New York was completed in 1899 in an Italian Renaissance revival style and is one of the most prestigious private social clubs in the city. Now let me just get through the traffic here first. Next is one of New York City's most popular, First, down the right, we have Papillon Bistro and Bar, a French brasserie which has a very popular brunch. If we headed east on 54th Street, we would find the Museum of Modern Art, one of the top art museums in the city and regularly in the top 10 of the most visited museums in the world. Since opening in 1939, the MoMA's vast collection has spanned the late 19th century to the present, with over 200 works of modern and contemporary art. A must visit on a rainy day. Moving on, we find St. Thomas Church, completed in 1916 in a French High Gothic Revival style. It has one of the most renowned Anglican church music programs in the world. Its choir of men and boys, considered to be the leading ensemble of its kind in the Anglican choral tradition in the United States, performs during 5 services every week. Coming up, we have our next subway alert. If you want to get to this big mound of snow, take an E or F train to the 5th Avenue 53rd Street station. Moving on, we have 2 Gilded Age mansions. Oh, okay, we're not moving on. I forgot to point out the Microsoft Experience Center back there, where you can try out all their new devices and get tech help. But next, coming up, we have maybe the last 2 survivors of 5th Avenue's famed Gilded Age mansions. The first of which was last purchased for a double strand pearl necklace worth $1 million. On the left, we have New York City, a National Historic Landmark. A member of the Millionaires' Mile, the Morton F. Plant residence was built in 1904 in an Italian Renaissance style for a wealthy railroad and steamboat tycoon. In 1917, he famously sold the mansion to the French jeweler Pierre Cartier for $100 and a necklace comprising 128 rare pearls that his wife had taken a fancy to. This has been the flagship store for Cartier ever since. Next door to Cartier is the former George W. Vanderbilt residence. In New York City, a National Historic Landmark, it was completed in 1905 in a French Renaissance revival style for another grandson of Cornelius Vanderbilt. It is now the global flagship store for Kim Kardashian's Skims clothing company. Coming up, I'm going to cycle through a massive complex of office buildings over there on the right that was built in the 1930s and is called the Rockefeller Center. This has been recognized as the largest private building complex of Art Deco art and architecture in the world. And the first of those buildings is the New York City landmark, the International Building. Completed in 1935 in a modern and Art Deco styles, this skyscraper is one of only 41 buildings in the city which has its own zip code, 10111. On the far side of 5th Avenue is in New York City a National Historic Landmark. The Roman Catholic St. Patrick's Cathedral was completed in 1878 in a decorated neo-Gothic style and is the largest Gothic Revival Catholic cathedral in America. Occupying nearly the whole block down to Madison Avenue, St. Patrick's serves as the seat for the Archdiocese of New York and welcomes millions of tourists and people of faith every year to see its beautiful interior. At the beginning of this month, the second largest diocese in America, composing 296 parishes that serve nearly 3 million Catholics, welcomed its newest Archbishop, Illinois' Ronald Hicks, who replaced the popular Cardinal Timothy Dolan. Installed above the entrance of the International Building in 1936, we see the sculpture Youth Leading Industry by the Italian artist Artillo Pizzarelli. Next to that, we see the bronze statue of the famous Greek titan Atlas by the German-born sculptor Lee Laurie. Installed here in 1937 at £1,400, this is the largest sculpture in the Rockefeller Center. Parked beside it is a coffee truck by Ralph Lauren. Moving on, we see a plaque gifted to the Rockefeller Center by several Italian businessmen in 1965 called Italia by the sculptor Giacomo Manzoni from the Alpine city of Bergamo. Across 5th, we see what has been the flagship store for the luxury Saks department store since they built it in 1924 in a neo-classic style. Its 10 floors of luxury retail, including its renowned shoe company on the 8th floor, is credited with turning 5th Avenue into a global shopping destination. Across 50th Street, with the same architect as the International Building, we find the Art Deco styled British Empire Building. Also a New York City landmark, it was built in 1933 and its early tenants were mainly British companies. That huge bronze panel over the door, installed in 1933, is called Industries of the British Empire by the German-born sculptor Carl Paul Jennewein. The British Empire's architectural twin is right across the walkway here, the New York City landmark La Maison Française. Built in 1933, also in an Art Deco style, its former tenants were mainly, you guessed it, French companies. Above the entrance is a gilded relief called Friendship Between America and France by the Parisian sculptor Alfred Janou. which celebrates the relationship between France and the United States. If you're visiting for Christmas, the facade here is where you'll watch Saks' famous holiday light show. After Saks, you will turn and go see New York City's Christmas tree on the other side of the ice rink, which is located down at the end of the Channel Gardens here, named after the English Channel, which separates France and Britain. Up ahead, towering over the entire complex, is 30 Rockefeller Center, better known as 30 Rock. This 70-story centerpiece of the Rockefeller Center complex was completed in 1933 and is considered to be a masterpiece of Art Deco architecture. This is the headquarters of NBC Universal and is home to SNL, The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, and the major tourist attraction up there, the top of the Rock, one of New York City's best observation decks. Up next is the rink at Rockefeller Center. And flanking the entrance to the ice rink, we see the statues Maiden and Youth by the Minnesota sculptor Paul Manship, installed here in 1936. On the far side of the rink, installed the same year, we see Paul Manship's famous 18-foot tall gilded cast bronze sculpture depicting the Greek titan Prometheus. Now I'm going to have to come up these steps because my original path to the right has been closed off. We are in the heart of the Rockefeller Center, which contains 19 buildings, nearly every building that you see around you. It was developed by one John D. Rockefeller Jr., the son of a man considered to be one of the wealthiest men who ever lived. On the right here, we have an elevator that will bring you down to an underground complex of restaurants and shops. Opened in 1934, the rink operates until midnight on Fridays and Saturday nights and closes at 11 p.m. the rest of the week. The plaza coming up is where you will find New York City's famous Christmas tree during the holiday season. This is the famous 30 Rock, and above its entrance we see the monumental 34-foot Art Deco styled Wisdom by that man again, Lee Laurie. Installed in 1933, the inscription reads, "Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times," a quote from the Old Testament book of Isaiah. On the corner here we see the oldest toy store in America, and one can only assume this huge and beautiful teddy bear came right from there. Now, if we continue down to 48th Street, we will find McNally Jackson Books on the left, a very popular independent New York-based bookstore. And beyond that, on the right, we'll find several Irish bars, including Riley's, Sean's Bar, the Pig and Whistle, and the Elgin. This is F.L. Schwartz, the oldest toy store in America, that has been ever present in New York City since 1870. It found Hollywood fame in the 1988 Tom Hanks movie Big, when Hanks tried out the Schwartz's famous dance-on piano at his previous store on 58th Street. On the left, we're coming up on the famed British auction house Christie's. But first we have the entrance to the observation deck, the top of the Rock, and to the New York City landmark, the Rainbow Room. Christie's is a cool tourist attraction in and of itself because the auctions are open to the public. Recently, an authorized copy of the Emancipation Proclamation signed by Abraham Lincoln sold for a staggering $6.8 million. About 40,000 workers were involved in the building of the Rockefeller Center, which was welcome work during the era of the 1930s Great Depression. Next, we're coming up on a small little townhouse down the right-hand corner that was the location of a famous David versus Goliath battle in the 1930s. When the Rockefeller Center was being built, there was an Irish bar here called Hurley's Saloon that refused to give up their long-term lease, demanding a $250,000 payoff. I got a green light here, so I'm going to cross 6th Avenue here first. Down on 48th Street, we see the famed Fox News' news ticker wrapped around their global headquarters. And down 49th Street, you'll find Del Frisco Steakhouse and the upscale seafood restaurant Oceana. Now back to Hurley's and their Irish David versus Goliath battle. Having not received the $250 payoff to walk away from their long-term lease, which was a massive amount at the time, Hurley's, along with a second townhouse up on the corner of 50th Street, defied the richest man in the world, and the Rockefeller Center had to be built around them. Hurley's remained in business here for another 6 decades, and today 1240 6th Avenue contains the excellent Magnolia Bakery on the ground floor, with a slick lounge called the Pebble Bar filling the rest of the building. Here we have another subway alert. If you want to get to this location, take a BDFRM train to 47 50th Street Rockefeller Station, here on the right. And next door is Rough Trade, an independent vinyl store and live music venue. And beside that is the entrance to The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. One funny guy. Back on this side we see Le Holt's Pool. At Christmas, when their iconic giant red Christmas decorations are displayed, the pool creates one of the most photographed holiday backdrops in New York City. On the corner we see the 1930s holdout number 2, which now contains a Warby Parker eyewear store. On the corner we have the elegant Greek restaurant Avra. Next we come to the famous Radio City Music Hall. Another New York City and National Historic Landmark, this is considered another one of New York City's Art Deco masterpieces. Its auditorium was the largest in the world when it opened in 1934, and nearly every winter since it has been home to the Christmas Spectacular, where the famous Rockettes deliver their legendary kick line during 4 to 6 performances every day. Going to this show is synonymous with visiting New York City during the holidays. Across 6th Avenue at 30 Rock, the first artwork commissioned for the Rockefeller Center was Morning, Present, Evening by Robert Garrison, setting the stage for the whole center's Art Deco style. On the left we have the global flagship retail store for Major League Baseball, the MLB flagship store. And down on the corner of 52nd Street is the elegant Mastro's, one of my favourite steakhouses in the city. Coming up we have our first city bike station. You can use the kiosk here on the left to buy a 24-hour day pass for $25, which gives you unlimited 30-minute rides during that time. It costs just $5 if you want to take a bike for a single 30-minute trip anywhere. You can download and get access through the City Bike app. New York City has 1,500 miles of bike lanes, so this is a great way to see the city. Here on the left we have Ted's Montana Grill, serving up only the best of bison raised in the American West. And down the block we see Capitol Grill, an upscale classic New York steakhouse with a huge wine list. On the right we have Chopped Salads, and then the Lebanese restaurant Naya. On the left we find the brilliant Singaporean style food hall called Urban Hawker, serving street food from Singapore, India, Indonesia, the Philippines and other Southeast Asian countries. Let me just pull in here. Back across 51st Street we see the excellent French bakery L'Ami Pierre, located on the corner of New York City's little known 6.5 Avenue. This is the shortest avenue in New York City, running from here up to 57th Street, and there are many New Yorkers who do not know it even exists. Across from the French bakery we have another French eatery, and this is our first Michelin star restaurant. The famous La Bernardine is one of only 5 restaurants in the city with 3 Michelin stars, and is the only restaurant in New York City to have kept a 4-star New York Times rating for over 35 years. Next we have the Taft Hotel building, completed in a Spanish Renaissance style. It is celebrating its 100th birthday this year. It now contains the legendary Rosie O'Grady's restaurant. This family-owned and operated steak and seafood restaurant has been serving a pan-Celtic menu since it opened on 6th Avenue in 1974. Popular with the after-work crowd. Moving on, Taft's is now home to the Michelangelo New York, a luxury Italian-inspired boutique hotel that occupies the bottom 7 floors of the building. Its restaurant, The Lounge, has a small, fine dining Italian-style menu, including pizzas. Across 7th Avenue we see the Manhattan at Times Square Hotel. With nearly 700 rooms, it is a great tourist hotel in a super location that was completed in 1962 in an Art Deco style. Let me cross here to have another look at Taft's. And our first look at Times Square. More of that to come. But up the block on 52nd Street we find the famed Sheraton Hotel. With nearly 1,800 rooms, it is a popular hotel in a great location. One of Europe's biggest banks is located here, BNP Paribas, along with one of America's, Citibank, on the corner. Moving on, we're coming up to one of the biggest tourist attractions in the neighbourhood. When the weather is above 40 degrees Fahrenheit, the line to get into Ellen's Stardust Diner could be up to an hour long. This classic 1950s themed American diner, regarded as one of the best themed restaurants in the city, has singing waitstaff that belt out Broadway numbers and pop songs as you eat. All are aiming to follow the steps of former staff members who have all gone on to star on Broadway. This is a must if you're visiting with children. Beneath the diner, you'll find an intimate live music venue called Iridium, which is always popular. We have arrived onto Broadway, which anchors one of the most prestigious theatre districts in the world. Here we see the M Social Hotel. We're at 7th floor terrace that we can just about see there above the blacked out ad screens, has amazing views of Times Square. Very popular on social media. Up on 53rd Street, the Broadway show The Great Gatsby is playing, right next to the Ed Sullivan Theatre, where we will find The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. And across Broadway on the right is Sapphire's Gentlemen's Club. Dead ahead, hidden under that glass box, we have the largest restaurant in New York City, with seating for about 450 guests. This is the East Coast flagship location for the Michelin-renowned Taiwanese restaurant Din Tai Fung. Best known for their delicate soup dumplings, this is the largest of their 170 restaurants worldwide. Personally, I think their mild barbecue ribs are some of the best that you'll ever eat. On the corner we have the Italian bakery Rosetta. A local favourite is the pistachio croissant. Since 1999, the Mark Hellinger Theatre here on the right has been the 1,500-seat spiritual home of the interdenominational Times Square Church. The church is a New York City interior and exterior landmark because it is the very first movie theatre in America, opened in 1930, that was designed for talkies. For my younger viewers, talkies were movies that replaced the silent films of early cinema. Basically, all of us have only ever seen talkies in the cinema. Up next is the famed Gershwin Theatre. Built in 1972 and designed in an Art Nouveau style by set designer Ralph Alzwang, the Gershwin's 1,900 seats make it the biggest theatre in the whole district, and it has been a long-time home of the acclaimed Broadway show Wicked for the last 20-odd years. Across the street we have the excellent Indian restaurant Czar, and a locally favoured Japanese restaurant called Haji. Next door is the popular Irish sports bar and restaurant McHale's. Also known as Soccer Republic, this is the home of soccer in New York City, with supporters clubs for Glasgow Celtic, Borussia Dortmund and Wolves filling the bar during games. This will be the place to be during the upcoming World Cup in America. Continuing on, next past the Italian restaurant Azalea, I want to point out that the Gershwin's Rotunda contains the American Theatre Hall of Fame, with the photos of inductees hanging in the lobby. We have a parking garage here. In the basement of the Gershwin we have a second theatre called Circle on the Square, in which is currently showing Just in Time starring Jonathan Groff. Coming up across 50th Street we see the Palm, another legendary New York City steakhouse, and on our right is the excellent upscale Mexican restaurant Tolo Apche. Down the block is the popular Carnegie Diner on the corner, and this is also where we have our next subway alert. If you want to get to this location, take a CRE train to the 50th Street station. As I make my way back to Broadway, I'm going to tell you about the longest running play in New York City history that is coming up. Its leading lady, Catherine Russell, has performed the role of Margaret Thorne Brent since the beginning of the play's run in 1987. Having never taken a sick day, Catherine holds the Guinness Book of Records for the most performances as the same character in a play, having missed only several curtain calls, the last time reportedly to attend her brother's wedding in 1995. First across the street will be the upscale La Pecora Bianca, coming this summer. On the right is the stylish Citizen M Hotel, with compact high-tech and user-friendly rooms. Along with a lobby bar and lounge serving breakfast through dinner, it also has a rooftop bar and terrace. Next is the Gentlemen's Club Beer Elegance. And down beyond the Subway restaurant we arrive at Theatre Center. The Jerry Orbach Theatre provides affordable space for off-Broadway shows, including current parodies of Friends, Seinfeld and The Office, whilst the Anne L. Bernstein Theatre hosts the longest ever running show currently on Broadway, the murder mystery thriller The Perfect Crime, performing 8 times every week. Some woman that Catherine Russell. Next is a unique subway alert. If you want to get to this location, take a 1 train to the 50th Street station. What makes this station so unique though is that there are only a few subway stations in New York City with a bar inside. Dead ahead there, Nothing Really Matters, is a cool cocktail bar. And here we have a pizza joint called See No Evil. Grab a beer, grab a slice, then jump on the train. Let me grab the bike here while we have a look at the Winter Garden on Broadway, where Mamma Mia recently finished its run. Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman is loading in soon. While not its flagship restaurant, it should be. Here we see the world's largest Applebee's. 3 stories with floor-to-ceiling windows. It is a good spot to people watch. Moving on, we see Spin, a 4,000 square foot ping pong social club with 12 Olympic grade tables and a full bar and restaurant. Completed in 1931 in an Art Deco style, the Brill Building is a New York City landmark because of its role in American pop music history. From the 1950s into the 1960s, this building was the epicenter of US music publishing and songwriting, housing dozens of music publishers, songwriters, producers, agents, and recording studios. It was a one-stop hit-making machine before the 1960s British invasion led by the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Next, we find the legendary Junior's Bakery, home of their iconic rich and creamy New York-style cheesecakes. A must visit when you're in Times Square. On the corner, we see the popular Irish bar The Playwright, located right beside our next subway alert. If you want to get to this location, take an RNRW train to 49th Street Station. Now down on our right, we find the Broadway shows Chicago and the Book of Mormon, along with St. Malachy's Church, better known as the Actors Chapel, and also the Irish restaurant Lily's down close to 8th Avenue. From this point onwards, Broadway becomes a mixture of road traffic and pedestrian plazas, hence the red chairs lining the street here. Back on the right, we see the Hyatt Regency Times Square, an 800-room hotel suited to both leisure and business travellers, with an all-day restaurant called the Q48. Down in the corner, we find the always popular Krispy Kreme's donut shop. Arriving at 48th Street, this is where we find a couple of Broadway shows. Two Strangers Carrying a Cake Through New York and Hadestown. Halfway down the block is also where you'll find Hurley's Saloon, the Irish pub relocated here from the Rockefeller Center around the year 2000. Now let me just cross over here first to show you the flagship store for the fantastic world of Portuguese sardine, here on the corner. This 2-level store only sells fish, nearly only sells canned fish, and nearly only sells sardines. To change tack, this is M&M's World, a 3-story candy store full of chocolate fun. Another must visit if you want to keep the children happy. Now to completely change tack yet again, across 7th Avenue we see the Gentlemen's Club Platinum Dolls. Let me just come in off the street here. Across Broadway, on the corner of Keep Everyone in the Family Happy cross street, is the Daily Green, a cannabis dispensary. And further down 48th Street is where we find the Broadway show The Fear of 13, starring Adrian Brody, along with some more hotels. On this side we see a chocolate shop and a bakery, and next to them we find the 300-room Renaissance New York Times Square Hotel. It has the cool bow tie bar with panoramic views off the square. On the left we have Hershey's Chocolate World, and on the right the Olive Garden is located beside another entrance to the 49th Street subway station. To the left down 47th Street are the Irish bars The Long Acre and Langan's. Off to the right we will find the Broadway show 6, as well as the legendary Irish bar The Mean Fiddler down near 8th Avenue. Next we find TKTS Times Square. Since 1973, TKTS has been selling discounted same-day tickets for Broadway and off-Broadway shows from about 3 p.m. every day. Not all shows provide tickets each day, so check this board for what will be available. If the line is huge, consider going up to their second location uptown at the Lincoln Center on Broadway and 62nd Street. TKTS is under Times Square Red Stairs, which since 2008 has become a popular people-watching location and a great vantage point for selfies. It is located here in Duffy Square, named after Father Francis Duffy, a US Army Catholic chaplain with the famous New York Fighting 69th Infantry Regiment, who by the end of World War I had become the most highly decorated cleric in US Army history. After the war, he became a pastor here in the Theatre District. If you are here just before midnight, New York City slows down for 3 minutes to show you something a little magical. This is when you will get to witness the largest coordinated digital art display in the world. Every single night since 2012, for the 3 minutes just before midnight, all of these billboards, halls and contemporary video art takes over the streets, transforming the whole square into an open air gallery. And it is free. Very cool. Look down, you're walking on a granite and steel map of all the Broadway theatres that were in operation when the map was installed here in 2013. Now I want to show you the only statue on Broadway dedicated to an actor. Considered the greatest single figure the American theatre has ever produced, this statue is dedicated to George M. Cohan, the famed composer, playwright and actor. The guy on the left is crushing it for TikTok. If we continue down 46th Street, we'd find the new Irish bar Blake's, the live music venue Stoney Hall, the Church of Scientology, and the Broadway shows Hamilton and Death Becomes Her. On the left, the Marquee Theatre hosts the Broadway show Stranger Things. Heading east, on the right, we will find McCarthy's Irish Bar, across 46th Street from the New York City landmark, the Church of St. Mary the Virgin. Also on the National Register of Historic Places, this Episcopalian church was completed in 1895 in a French Gothic style and is known locally as Smoky Mary's because of the amount of incense used during service. I kid you not, the church's web address is smokymarys.org. That's brilliant. Unfortunately, technical problems with my GoPro means I'm recording this 5 days after the blizzard hit. Next, I want to show you the New York Marriott Marquis Hotel. Completed in 1985 in a brutalist style, this is one of New York City's iconic hotels. It is also one of the city's largest with nearly 2,000 rooms and has multiple restaurants including its famous The View restaurant, bar and lounge. Located on the 47th and 48th floors, The View is the city's only revolving restaurant. Unfortunately for me, the warm weather this week has melted most of the snow in Times Square. Moving on down to the left on 45th Street, we see the tourist attraction Rise New York, a multi-sensory, interactive, family-friendly look at the history of New York City. Across from Rise New York, you will find the Broadway show Oh Mary at the Lyceum Theatre, and next to that is the popular Museum of Broadway. Further down on 45th Street, you will find a great Irish rooftop bar above the Perfect Pint, right next door to Connolly's Pub and Restaurant, along with several more hotels. If we go west on 45th Street, we'd find the largest number of Broadway shows on one street. This is where we'll find Moulin Rouge, Outsiders, Operation Mincemeat, Buena Vista Social Club, Giant, Chess, and The Lion King. Up ahead is One Times Square, one of the most historic landmarks in New York City. For one night only, at midnight every New Year's Eve, millions of people fill the streets around the square here and look up there at its roof to watch a constellation ball drop 130 feet to the top of the building, beginning a new year in New York City and starting a massive exodus for our patron. Now the famed Carmine's is down 44th Street, serving up Italian family-sized meals there for over 3 decades. And beyond that is Lucky Strikes, a popular bowling alley. On the corner is the famous Paramount building. This New York City landmark was completed in 1927 in Beaux-Arts and Art Deco styles to be the headquarters for the film studio Paramount Pictures. On the other side of Broadway is where we'll find the Irish bars The Long Room and O'Donoghue's, along with the Broadway shows Maybe Happy Ending and Every Brilliant Thing, and the legendary old school dive bar Jimmy's Corner. One Times Square now contains New York City's newest observation deck, which just opened last December with a very cool 360-degree viewing platform. This morning, February 28th, we woke to find that the US and Israel are at war with Iran. So anti-war protesters have gathered beside the Times Square US Army recruiting office here on the corner. On the far corner is an NYPD traffic station, but if you have a problem you can get help there. Down 45th Street you will find the Broadway show Anne Juliet, the Town Hall concert venue, and the famed Italian restaurant Tony's Di Napoli. Off to my right we will see the Broadway show Harry Potter. Right, we are approaching the end of this winter special, so I just have a few more important tourist attractions left to show you. Your final subway alert is coming up on the far left corner. If you want to get to this location, you will take a 1237 SNRQRW train to the 42nd Street Times Square station. We have arrived at another of New York City's famous streets. This is 42nd Street, the longtime home for New York City entertainment. If you head west, you will find the Broadway show Aladdin, the famed Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, a Dave & Buster's arcade restaurant, and two huge movie theaters, the AMC Empire and Regal Times Square. If you're arriving into or departing New York City by bus, you will do so via the massive Port Authority bus station down on 8th Avenue. One last thing, if you go west for one block, you will get to the charming Bryant Park ice rink beside the famed New York City Public Library, which are both must-visit locations all year round. And we are finished, so stay tuned for some final messages. Alright, so thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my cycle around Midtown Manhattan. If you did, give me a like, leave me a comment, or ask me any question you have about New York City. If you love the show, why not buy me a copy? It would encourage me to keep showing you more of these neighborhoods. But more importantly, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss another episode. Until next time, I'm Jumbo. See you then.